Hey everyone, this is Steli Efti with Closeout, and in this video today we're going to talk about the question, the age-long question it seems like, is sales natural or learned, right? I get this question a lot. It's crazy how many times I've been asked this question in podcasts, emails that people like you sent me at events and conferences that I speak, or even in my one-on-one sessions with CEOs and founders. People constantly ask me, hey Steli, being good at sales, is that something that you can really learn, or is it something you're born with? To me, it's a little bit like asking somebody, hey, is running, you know, learned or is it natural? Well, I do believe we're all capable of running, although we had to learn it, we had to see it, we had to experience it. But just because we had to learn it doesn't mean that there's not certain people with a certain DNA that have the natural ability to run faster than others, like a certain body type, and other factors will play into this. So I do believe that DNA can play a part in how excellent at sales you can get, or how excellent as a runner you can get, right? I do believe everybody can get better at running. You could constantly become a better and better runner, right? But not everybody can win the Olympics in running, right? No, not everybody can be a world-class runner. And I think the same thing applies in sales as well. I think everybody and anybody can become really, really good at selling, and really effective at selling, and learning the basics and learning the fundamentals and learning even advanced techniques and really becoming truly good at selling. But I don't think everybody can become great or amazing at it. Not everybody's going to be a world-class salesperson or saleswoman. And but the truth is you don't have to. I really believe you don't have to. And people often ask me the question because they just assume when they see me, especially on stage or when I'm being interviewed, that I'm kind of a natural born salesperson, right? That I just came out of the womb and I was just able to negotiate and close deals and, was just gifted with the ability to sell people on my ideas or sell them on my products or services. And that's not true, right? There's some truth to that, but it was not that alone. So I'm one of those individuals, if I had to judge myself, that I've both had natural talents when it came to sales, but I've also spent at this point 2 decades, over 2 decades, not over 2 decades, but close to 2 decades, really working on my craft and really perfecting my sales skills, my sales abilities, and I've spent 15 years in sales, managing sales teams, closing deals, negotiating things, becoming better and better in the field, building just an incredible amount of experience and expertise. I've read thousands of books. I've written, over 2,000 blog posts on the topic of sales. I've taught in workshops and on stages in front of thousands of people. I've advised at this point probably over 1,000 founders on this topic. So obviously, over that long of a period, researching this topic so much, going to workshops, going to seminars, listening to podcasts, studying it in life in general, just every interaction I have, I'll study it from the perspective of, what is going on here in terms of communication, right? So I've learned to become better and better at selling, but I was born with a few gifts that made this easier, right? So what are some of these gifts? Well, I do, maybe this is the Greek side of me, right? But I do like people, right? If you're a particularly social person, if you like other human beings, if you like spending time with them, if you are a good storyteller and good communicator, if you're somebody that is confident, that has a certain intrinsic confidence, if you're somebody that is comfortable in their own skin, if you're somebody that's competitive and wants to become better and better at something and wants to be measured in their performance, and if you're somebody that is able to feel empathy for others, that wants to truly listen and understand other people, that finds ways to connect with others, all these things are natural gifts that some people will have more of or other people will have less of. But you can learn to become better at these things. You can learn to be a better communicator. You can learn to be better in social context with others. You can learn to increase your confidence. You can learn and practice empathy. You can learn how to ask questions and listen. You can learn all these things. You can, wherever you are on the spectrum of incredibly talented and gifted to no natural gifts whatsoever, you can improve every single day. And you don't have to be an Olympic salesperson, right? That doesn't even exist. You just have to be good at it. You don't have to be great at it, especially as a founder or in any other business position or in anything really in life. I gave a talk recently in Europe about, not sales isn't everything, but everything is sales. And the core part of the talk was that sales and selling is really natural. It's really just result-driven communication. Whenever we communicate as humans with a purpose, when we try to move something forward or convince somebody of something, we're selling, right? Every day you're selling yourself on certain ideas. Every day in every interaction where somebody's trying to convince you of something, it's a sales interaction. A lot of our kind of social settings when we try to attract, somebody to spend time with us socially, either a friend or even a potential partner. It doesn't matter if it's the opposite sex or same sex or whatever your preferences are. Anytime we interact socially and trying to convince somebody to spend more time with us or buy into our idea or whatever else it is, we're selling in one way or another, if we're conscious of it or not. So if we're doing it all the time, I think it makes sense to get better and better at it. And I'm going to include a list here of a bunch of things you can do to get started at it, practice your craft and get better at it, some resources you should read, some podcasts you should listen to, some stuff you can do. So if you think that you are a beginner at this, I'm going to give you a little roadmap on how to become, good enough to be dangerous at this craft. But I want to really end this video with an example, because me telling you you don't have to be charismatic and you don't have to be a people's person, everybody can be good at sales. Some people might look at this a little critically. So I'm going to give you an example of somebody that is as different from me as you could imagine. Patrick McKenzie, Patio11, as he's famously known on the internets, is a really good friend of mine. And if he was sitting next to me, you would not confuse him for a natural born salesperson, right? Just the way he dresses, the way he moves, acts, talks. He is the ultra geek. He is the ultra, kind of stereotype developer. And I say this with love. He's a genius. He's brilliant. He's so smart and kind. He's an amazing human being. But, I see him at conferences all around the world, and anytime I see him on stage or anywhere else, really, he always looks like you have just woken him up, and he fell asleep on the couch with his clothes on, and you shook him up and told him to walk into the room. So he just walks into this conference room, and when you see him, it's like his hair is a little bit of a mess, and the stuff that he wears looks like he might have slept in it, right? He walks on stage, and at first, he doesn't seem like the type of person that would be a great salesperson. But Patrick is amazing at sales. And it's not because it's natural, it's all learned. He, over the years, understood that if he wants to succeed in life, especially in business, if he wants his ventures and his startups and his products that he's developing to really flourish and become big businesses and profitable businesses, he would have to learn the ABCs of marketing and then the ABCs of sales. And he's gotten better and better and better at selling. He just understands it from a very logical perspective on what has to happen for a sale to occur and what are the things that you need to do well to make this happen and increase the odds. And he's just gotten really good at this. And one of my favorite examples of this is when he had started a new startup and was talking to potential future customers and had a meeting here in Palo Alto. He lives in Tokyo, but he was visiting Silicon Valley, and he had a meeting with a billionaire founder, a founder that is running a multi-billion-dollar startup now, a unicorn, somebody that's incredibly smart and very accomplished. And they had a lunch meeting or a coffee meeting, and Patrick was telling this billionaire founder about his new idea in the startup and the product that he was building, and they were going back and forth on this. And at the end of the conversation, Patrick looked at that billionaire and said, do you know Steli Efti? And that billionaire founder said, yeah, I know Steli Efti. Yeah, he's a cool guy. And then Patrick went, well, if Steli was here, he would not allow me to end this conversation without asking you if you would become a customer of ours in the future. And that billionaire founder laughed and was like confused at it and looked at Patrick and went like, this is so weird of you to ask me. We've known each other for such a long time. This is so not like you, Patrick. And he looked at the billionaire and said, well, yes, that's why I said, if Steli Efti was here, he would not let me finish this conversation without asking, will you be a customer? And the billionaire looked at him and went, oh shit, yeah, I think this is super exciting. Happy to be your first customer. And I love this story, right? For many reasons. Obviously, it's good for my ego, but and I know that there's a tweet that Patrick put out there that was basically like Steli Efti is the Chuck Norris of sales. He closes deals even if he's not even present or something along those lines. But the reason why I bring up this story is not so much because it's an ego stroke, but because it shows that, you know, his delivery, his demeanor was not like super enthusiastic, was not like super salesy, was nothing like me. But he literally used me like a virtual person in that conversation to get to the close of the deal. And that's just one of my favorite examples that really everybody can become really good at selling, and that becoming good at selling is not something you can blame on good genetics, but on putting in the work and the effort to master a skill that's going to help you progress in life in all areas, and especially if you're an entrepreneur and if you're into startups and building new businesses. All right, so I'm dying to hear about your thoughts on this, so please leave a comment, share your story or your stories or your examples of people that are natural born salespeople or people that have learned to become really great at sales. As I said, I'm going to add a ton of resources here on how to learn to become better at sales if you feel like you're still shaking, you're not a natural born salesperson. And if you want to get more advice or get personally in touch, just shoot me an email, steli@close.io. If you haven't already, make sure to go to blog.close.io and subscribe to our blog. And now let's go out there and get